All right, everybody. Welcome to your JK show, hosted like always by yours truly, Jeff. Alongside me, like always, I got Kenny.
I am doing great, and I'm ready for this awesome JK show.
All right. So, on the docket today, I'm going to talk to you guys for a second. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information that we feel is necessary, and then we're going to get to the docket. So, first and foremost, I want to make sure everybody in the league understands what this graphic design team is. So, we have a new graphic design team led by Blaze. Blaze has hired a couple of associates to go ahead and create graphics for teams around the league. So if you're a team like the Ballers who are useless and can't make your own graphics, you could ask Blaze and he will assign one of his team members to create the graphic for you. I don't actually mean that you're useless. I just wanted to insult the Ballers. That's what the Assassin's Jam is all about. So that's your graphic design team. I just wanted to make that clear real quick. And then before we get into more details, I want to raise awareness to an issue in our league. So next year, I'm going to create a really cool system, and I think you guys are going to like it, to redivide the conferences and divisions. But for this season, every one of us are in the Eastern Conference, as you guys can see here. So that's good because we'll play each other lots. The reason it's bad is because the All-Star game, like voting for things like that, the Western Conference teams that are full of free agent players, 40 overall players, somebody has to be the best. Even if they're all terrible, one of them are going to be putting up monster numbers just because they're the best in a terrible conference. So next year, it's already on the docket to repair that. I just wanted to shed some light to that for this season because I think lots of questions are going to be asked come All-Star game time when you see these no-namers put into the three-point shooting contest and stuff like that. They're not actually in our league. It's just me battling 2K. All right, with that being said, first on the docket, I think you guys are going to like this. I think you're going to be excited for it. Lion here, he's going to read the reporters' power rankings, and we're going to compare their power rankings to what actually happened by the end of week 1. So Lion is going to read them off, and then we're going to compare them to what the week 1 standings are. Just remember, these rankings are a little skewed. The Polar Bears, I've started week 2. The Polar Bears have played 1 game, and the Bobcats have played 1 game. Bobcats should only be 6-0. Polar Bears should be 2-1. Other than that, everybody else should be accurate. So, Lion, you want to go ahead and read me the Baller Reporters power rankings?
All right, the Ballers, starting at number 5, they chose the Assassins. And at number 4, they have the Yetis. And at number 3, absolutely zero biased in their top 3, is the Ballers. Number 2 is the Chupacabras, and their prediction for the best team to come out of the SBF after the draft is the Vixens.
Okay, so we have, real quick, say it one more time. I got multiple kids in my ears. We have Assassins at 5.
Assassins, Yetis, Ballers. Then we have at number 2 the Chupacabras, and 1 the Vixens.
So, right off the bat, I mean, glaringly obvious. Vixens voted at number 1. Actually, 4 and 3 right now. They are number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are number 9. That's the first glaringly obvious mistake. But I don't think anybody could have predicted the Vixens to start off this poorly. The Vixens really struggled in their primetime game. They look like a good team. They just look like they need to figure it out. They have a lot of chemistry issues going on their team.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing is that their prediction from the Ballers GM, the news reporter, he said that their team would have great synergy based on their play style. So it could not have been more opposite of a take.
Yeah, absolutely wrong take. So far, number 2, he had who?
Chupacabras.
He had Choops at number 2. The real number 2 are the Assassins. 1 and 2, Bobcats Assassins. Chupacabras right now are number 8, just above Rocky Mountain. The Chupacabras got off to a weak start. It looks like they have a bad matchup against the Stallions. I'm not going to lie. The Chupacabras looked good in a couple of their games, but they lost both times to the Stallions. The Stallions, 2 of their 3 wins came against the Chupacabras in week 1. So we
Wow.
know, yeah, we know how important matchups are, and that might just be a case of a bad matchup. So I'm not going to call the Ballers out for that wrong pick yet. So I'm going to wait until after week 2 or 3 to decide how wrong the Ballers are about the Chupacabras. But so far, it's not looking good. Number 3, who'd they pick?
Themselves.
Oh, what a surprise. The Ballers put themselves in the top 5. Well,
Top three.
the top 3. The actual number 3 goes to the Smashville Tornadoes, who are 5 and 0. The Ballers are all the way down there at number 10 at 3 and 2. So far this season, I mean, I will say the Ballers have had a tough schedule, but they just don't look like they're playing well together yet. It's early in the season, so it's way too early to call reporters out for being wrong with their rankings, but that's our job. But so far, it's not looking good. What's your
Yeah,
take?
yeah, and I mean that's kind of the point. Is they're hot takes, so it's going to be a reactionary take from when it happens, and it's going to be a reactionary take when we take a look at it after the first week like this. So I mean it's kind of fair. It goes back and forth, but the Ballers putting themselves in the top three. Whoo, that is not biased at all.
Go ahead and give them their number 4 option and explain what the actual results are.
All right. So we got the Yetis at number three. And in reality, we got where is the standings?
It should still be on my screen. Oh, I'm not streaming it for you. Well, that
Nope.
is a JK show struggle. I'm out in the kitchen fighting with kids. But priorities, I'm coming back. The actual number 4 right now belongs to the Magic City Stingrays at 4 and 1.
Are the Yetis winless?
Their prediction was the Yetis.
Yeah, the prediction for number 4 was the Yetis.
The Yetis are 0 and 3. So
Listen, I'm not going to judge them too hard because they're making hot takes out of the draft, but so far, I feel like all of their top 5 people don't deserve to be in the top 10, except for one maybe. So I'm not going to call this I'm not going to call this a list of hits right away.
okay, baby crisis averted. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I heard what you were saying. They don't have a single top 5 team correct so far. The
No.
Yetis, for those of you guys that don't know, the Yetis have just looked extremely dysfunctional. I think they do have potential. They have a good team, but so far they look dysfunctional. I've seen a lot of teams exposed early in the season for just having 1 or 2 pieces that just don't fit and cause a disruption to the flow. For example, on paper, the Bobcats, they just don't look like a team that should be 6 and 0 after week 1. But when you watch them play, it's clear Kyrie Allen is the guy. And everybody gets out of his way. Murray Williamson likes to shoot, and Kyrie likes to pass. So when Kyrie's not making some kind of heroic dunk or layup, he's giving it up to Murray, and they know that that's their offense. It's Murray and Kyrie. Whereas you got the Yetis, and it's almost like everybody wants to be the top guy, so they're all fighting each other for the rights to take the shots. Let's move on to number 5. Who was their number 5? The A-Town Assassins?
Yep, the Assassins are at number 5.
Well, the actual number 5 belongs to the Anchortown Polar Bears. So, I mean, they were correct about putting the Assassins in the top 5. They were just wrong about where. So, the Polar Bears, one loss on the season. They lost the first streamed game of Season 4 against the Chupacabras, where the Polar Bears just didn't look like they had their chemistry. They were another one bit by the chemistry bug early in the season. But Michael Self looks like a true leader for this team. And you saw during that loss, he was directing traffic, telling people where to go, coaching them up. So I have mad confidence that these Polar Bears are going to rise past number 5. What's your take?
Well, I think the Assassins at number 5 was probably the most interesting take when I initially saw it, because we kind of assumed that with the success that they had with their core of Taylor and McNeil, which is who they decided to keep, we all kind of thought they were going to remain at the top relevancy. Like there was no chance they were going to be outside the top 5. It was just where in the top 5. So putting that at number 5 was kind of a shock to put them over some of these teams who were coming completely out of the expansion. So that was an interesting take, and
Right.
it kind of went as we all expected.
Now let's give the Rattlesnakes reporter's top 5 and see how close he was.
The Rattlesnakes at number 5 chose the Polar Bears. And at
Okay.
number 4, they had the Ballers. And the Ballers put himself at 3. So even though we might have thought that was a little biased, the other reporter at least thought they were going to be around the same spot. So we can't give too much blame to him. The Assassins are at number 3, which is about where I would have put them, in my personal opinion, going into the season after looking at it. But then that's when you look at the top 2. Their top 2, they have the Vixens at number 2, whereas the Ballers GM put them at number 1. And then at the hot take number 1, not even on the list for the Ballers, is the Guardians.
That's interesting. So they got the Polar Bears exactly right. They have A-Town closer than the Ballers did. Other than that, the other 3 are wrong, but I don't think anybody could have predicted the Bobcats being number 1 after week 1. But I
No,
will say
nobody.
the number 1 team, the Guardians aren't too far off. They're 3-1. They're one loss away from being in the top 5, so I have to say it looks like the Rattlesnakes so far have the best power rankings going into week 2, with no team being below. Like the Ballers, they had the Yetis in the top 5. The Yetis are the second worst team in the league right now, so that's a pretty far drop. Whereas the farthest drop for the Snakes reporter goes to the Ballers. So, I mean, that's not too far of a drop. So we got to hand the trophy to the Rattlesnakes power rankings so far. I'm sure these crazy reporters are going to have more power rankings, so we will just wait for them to come out with their next one, and we will continue to tear them apart week by week.
Yeah, and the Rattlesnakes GM did have a hot take. He let it off with hot take for the Guardians, but he said something that was really interesting, and I think we all should keep an eye on. He said that I believe Dion Hill is the second coming of KJ Collins, and we know what KJ has done in the SBF. It's early on, but after seeing Dion Hill, whew, that might be one of the most accurate hot takes we've seen if he can keep up what he's doing.
So real quick now, because we're running out of time for this week's JK show, I'm going to go to this stats leader screen. As you guys can see, like I said earlier, there are certain free agency players that are thriving because of how bad their team is. I am doing my best to keep them under the radar for us. So if you occasionally see them in your top 20, just kind of overlook them, please. They're not available to pick up. But what we're going to do real quick is we're going to give a way too early MVP prediction. I'm going to give you guys 3 players that I say after week 1, watch for these guys to be in the MVP talks. And then I'm going to turn it over to Lion to do the exact same thing. So first, my number 1, I'm going to start at number 3. My number 3 choice for watching out way too early MVP talks is a tough one. My top 2 are easy. But my number 3, I'm going to have to go Jamarius Randall. The reason I picked Jamarius Randall is just because he stuffs the stat sheet so hard. Look at those 27 points, 7 boards, 6 assists from a 6'1 point guard. This guy can really stuff the stat sheet, and he is the best player for the Stingrays. Number 2, I'm going with KJ Collins, 33, 9, and 6. Yes, it might surprise you that I have KJ at number 2, but number 1, I have to go Deion Hill right now. 36, 9, and 3. Yes, I know the points aren't that big of a difference, and KJ has more assists, but I'm telling you guys, from what I've seen so far, Deion Hill is the focal point of this Guardians offense, whereas KJ has to spread the love occasionally to other offensive scorers like Kim, like Ken Yang. Deion Hill, I mean, he's surrounded by good players, but he's surrounded by good role players that like to dish the ball. Brandon Shipley, great player, but never really known to take over. Chris Myers, great defender. Like Deion Hill, Boyd Dawkins is his point guard. Boyd Dawkins is a playmaker, not necessarily a scorer. Deion is the offense for these Guardians, so I think I could see his points per game being higher than 36 by the end of the season if the Guardians are successful. All right, go ahead and give me your top 3.
All right, my top 3 are very similar, but at number 3, I have Travis Price. Now, Travis Price has been the heart and soul of his new team since his trade for Red Rock, and he did win an MVP before. He is a former MVP. We know what he's capable of, and so far, it looks like he hasn't really lost a step at all. I really don't see why there's any reason that he can't keep his consistency that he's had for the last 2 seasons and work his way up into those MVP talks. I'm not confident to say he's going to win the MVP over these next 2 people, which is why I'm keeping him at 3. But I don't think he's a guy you can leave out of the conversation with how well he's played in his new team. Now, at number 2, I have Deion Hill. Now, pretty much everything that the Assassins GM just went over was pretty accurate to my opinion. The only thing that kind of scares me is that he's on an expansion team, and if their team starts to fall apart, they don't have that kind of chemistry yet, how is he going to react? Are they just on a hot start? We all know he's a good player, but is this something he can keep up consistently with? We don't know yet. We haven't seen that out of him. But with number 1, we've seen this guy play at an MVP level. He's either the runner-up or the MVP pretty much every season. It's KJ Collins. I don't see any reason that he can't win it again this year, and it doesn't look like he's going to stop anytime soon. And he's the only one that I would be confident in, if I had to put money on it, that I would put it on KJ Collins.
Agreed. Honorable mentions just because they're balling out right now. Russ Hopkins, absolutely insane numbers right now. I just don't see him keeping it this way. That's why I didn't put him up there for me. Honorable mention goes to Darnell Turner, who, for me, really showed that he's going to be the Chupacabra's best scorer this season. And we've seen Darnell Turner in the past, if he picks it up, if he hits a hot streak, he's going to be hard to stop. And then my last honorable mentions, Murray Williamson. The Bobcats seem to love this guy. And as you can see, 20 points, 6 boards. This guy's looking like his rookie season when he was shooting better, when he was playing better. So those are my 3 honorable mentions. And that's it for the JK show. If you guys have any suggestions as to what you would like to see on the next show, please feel free to ask. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.